Good morning and welcome to another bwtech Bright and Early. This morning, we have the great pleasure of hosting Syncopated Engineering's CEO, Jim Costabile.
Thank you, Megan. Glad to be here.
So I wanted to bring you in this morning because you've had a lot going on in the last year, and it's really exciting to hear about your progress. We've talked a lot. One of the things that I noted as we were preparing for today's interview was on your website, you quote Miles Hoffman, who says, "Syncopation is a disturbance or interruption of the regular flow of rhythm. It's the placement of rhythmic stresses or accents where they wouldn't normally occur." Are you in the business of disturbing things?
Yeah, the word syncopated to us means that you kind of emphasize the offbeat, right? So we kind of capture that and use it as a mantra to kind of come up with creative ways of solving problems that other people haven't done before.
So what kind of problems are you working to solve?
So the two main areas that we focus on right now are cognitive radio, which is a radio that's sort of self-aware of the environment and then can reconfigure itself to act out some sort of behavior that your intended behavior. And then the other line of business is sort of edge analytic acceleration. So taking algorithms and analytics that would normally run on a cloud and pushing them to a small device working on the edge so you get real-time answers to your questions.
So how do those two come together under one umbrella? How does the company, what's the focus?
I think it was really customer driven from the very, very beginning. In other words, we were working with a lot of customers who basically wanted a device that would do more than one thing, multifunctional solution, right? And so that's kind of where the cognitive radio came in. Hey, could we take something and we can reconfigure it so one device, many different missions, right? And then on the other side was they were always pushing the envelope for getting more performance. And over time, they get more and more distributed. So as they get more and more distributed, they might not have connectivity back to a big enterprise. And so they wanted to know, how can we push things to the edge and make them run faster in a smaller package? So both those things, and they kind of work well together because the sort of the machine learning on the cognitive radio, we can accelerate on an edge analytic device. And our radio is a small device. So they both kind of feed well together.
So in your team, you have mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, software engineers. You run the gamut?
Yeah, to build a device like that works at the edge, we need a little bit of everything. And so yes, we have our own hardware design capability, including mechanical and RF engineers. And then we have a lot of software people that could do things from embedded all the way up to enterprise. And a real strong digital signal processing kind of comms and machine learning algorithm set.
So do you create products to spec, or are you going out and finding the problems in the market and creating solutions?
It's more the latter. We typically see a problem and then try to figure out how we would come up with a solution to solve that problem. Every once in a while, we'll do something to spec. Someone will give us something in a particular waveform or something that they want us to build. But for the most part, it's been see the need, talk to customers, figure out what they're trying to solve, and then put something together and give them a full solution.
So who are your typical customers?
Primarily, we've been doing military and Department of Defense. So they're the ones that typically want that one device that does a million different things. And so that's how
very small too, and light, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And not a lot of battery usage.
Exactly.
So how does this translate to the private sector?
So that's a great question. We've been participating in something called the Army X Tech Search Pitch, which is an Army pitch competition. And they challenged us from the very beginning to try to find a dual use application for our technology. Not always easy because it's inherently military. But what we found is that our current Mockingbird system, which is an RF signal emulator, would be an outstanding piece of lab equipment for the test and measurement world. And so we are actually currently right now taking that military grade system and turning it into a laboratory grade system, and looking forward to a product launch in early 2021 with that device.
So would other companies such as yours who are developing devices, would they be the ideal customer? Who is it? Research institutions?
Yeah, it's really going to be engineering labs, research institutions. It could be both DoD and academia. It could be small wireless communication companies like ourselves. So we're definitely into the eat your own dog food kind of a thing, because we need it. You got to generate these signals so you can test and your own solutions. So it's a need that we also have.
Are there other solutions on the market that are solving these kinds of problems?
They're a little different. They're either, typically they're either kind of single purpose. So they do a few signals, but they don't have the sort of the flexibility and reconfigurability that we have. Or they're very expensive lab grade equipment that you're doing for like making sure that you're compliant with an LTE base station, right? And ours is a little different. We're in a sort of a different product niche there. We're trying to create sort of rich RF signal environments, RF scenes. And we do that in a way that other people can test their own algorithms. So dynamic spectrum access is a good example. That's an application where you sense the environment, figure out where the interference is, and then you can set up communications around that interference. And we do that with our cognitive radios. Well, this Mockingbird system would allow you to create a very rich scene and then allow you to test your algorithms against that scene. And so our partners down at the Army Research Lab, they're doing it with radar. How do you make radar and wireless comms work together in the same shared spectrum? And so we could emulate all the wireless communications for them so that they can then see how their radar would work in a dynamic environment like that.
So can you add the radar spectrum to your devices as well?
We could do that too. Yes.
Oh, wow.
So we could turn it around and we could make emulate the radar so that radio manufacturers can figure out how they would coexist with military radar.
That's fantastic. So these are all typically devices for the government, for a warfighter, for to be used in the field, right? And none of this has actually shut down during the pandemic. So how have you guys been able to deal with trying to keep up with the demand and the need for these kind of tools during the pandemic?
So a couple of things there that have been interesting. We, from the very beginning, realized that we'd be the most resilient company we could be if we had a nice balance of solutions and services. So during this year, what's happened is that services side has taken a hit because it's real hard to go to somebody else's place of business and work on a job site. But it's very easy to run your own solution kind of business. UMBC, bwtech's been open for us the whole time. So we've been able to go in when we need to actually put hands-on equipment. But we also instrumented things from the very beginning as a small agile business so that we could work remotely. And so we've been a nice coupling of both working remotely and coming into hands-on equipment. We've actually thrived in this very challenging year.
Working with you, I've noticed that over time, you guys are constantly having different folks in. And so I would imagine that within bwtech, you have not really had to change a whole lot because your team was not always here at the same time.
Correct, yes. Yes, the one thing that we did do differently, which has been really amazing, is we are agile and we follow sort of an agile solution development practice. And we were okay doing some of the daily stand-ups like they normally have you do, but they weren't very efficient. And we actually found that when we went virtual and everyone was at home with their own computer and connecting virtually, we actually became more productive. We were very, very tied together and stayed on track. We didn't drift as much. And that's been incredible. And we're gonna, whenever the world opens back up and we're even in place, we're still gonna do our stand-ups in a way that we can make them totally virtual like that. Everybody has their own resources that they can, share, take the screen over, do a demonstration of what they're doing. It's been incredible. And it's allowed us to reach out to some of those people who were doing service work that weren't always at UMBC. And so now we could, everyone kind of felt like they were all together, even though we were very remote.
That's really fantastic. It's almost as if you should be able to go and tutor our university professors and all of the teachers around the country as to how to actually efficiently teach a class and work collaboratively while everybody's home. That would be great.
It's a balance. You have to have, especially in the universities, they have to have hands-on lab, but they also can totally do things remotely. And again, a nice balance there, and you can get what you need out of both media.
So let me ask you, have you always wanted to be an entrepreneur? Have you always wanted to run your own company?
No, it took a little while. I mean, I kind of started as just an engineer, and as the experience grew and I started running and leading more efforts, then I started to thinking more about it. And honestly, I was working in a big company where they challenged me to come up with new innovative ideas. I had a great team, and we started putting things together. And I kept running into resistance. No, that's not good enough. Do it again. Make it different. Paint it red. Whatever the constraint of the day was. And we just realized at one point that, wait a minute, I think these are really good ideas. And so we took them out on our own and started winning a couple of SBIRs, and that turned them into solution jobs. So I kind of had to get out from under that constraints, and then we were able to run, and it's been fantastic ever since.
It's fantastic, but it's also rocky, right? What kind of advice would you give to an entrepreneur to get through those tough times?
It's tough. Last year was a real tough one for us. It's hard. I think you have to just, you have to focus on a couple of things that you do and do very well. And you need to try to find a way to be as resilient as possible. And for us, we got there by, again, balance, I guess, solutions and services, more than one customer. But while you're doing all that, you also have to have laser focus on the 2 or 3 things that you do really well. Because if you try to do everything to everybody, you're too spread, and you just can't get it done. And there's also power in saying no, right? And this is a luxury as you start to get, a little bit more road underneath you. But there's power in saying, no, we don't do that. We only do this. And over time, that message starts to come back to you with your staff, with your customers, with your colleagues, with your partners, and they all get it. And once they all start getting it, then that's when you really start to you start to get repeat business, and they know when they have to call you.
So Jim, as a thought leader in the mechanical device engineering space, where do you see opportunities? Where should people be looking to kind of solve problems?
I think that's a great question. There's a couple of things out there now that are interesting. I think one of them is that we found, especially with this year, is the speed of information. Right? I mean, you say something and it goes, and it can spread everywhere. Right? So because of that, it's very easy to more quickly engage customers, and they don't have to be co-located with you. Right? I think you still have to, there's still high value in those face-to-face meetings, but you could actually, and we're finding this, you could actually start to engage more customers faster by taking the same approach as the information. And as fast as it flies, you can engage with people. And if customers start coming around to that too, which I think they're thinking more about now, you know what I mean? It's a nice way to quickly get engaged and get something moving, and then you can always come together to follow up to get into the details.
So as a resident of bwtech, one of the great things about working in a space like this is that you get to bump into others and find collaborations. Can you talk about that and your experience there?
Yeah, absolutely. This has been a fantastic year for that. So there's another company, 4S, within the incubator that's known for optical networking. That's not what we do. And they started to reach out to us because they needed help with embedded device manufacturing and radio work, RF radio work. And so we've now collaborated with them on 2 or 3 efforts that they already had. And then in March, we jointly wrote an SBIR that would basically combine their free space optical network with our radios to form a beamformer. And we won. We were just told that we won, and that is moving to a new phase 1 SBIR.
That is fantastic news. Congratulations.
Thank
I'll
you.
have to knock on the wall right here and congratulate the guys over there too. Well, Jim, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's been great to catch up with you and to learn about syncopated engineering.
Thank you, Megan. Always a pleasure.